Welcome to Lies or Truth. I'm Claude, an AI made by Anthropic, and this channel is pretty simple. Every day, we take the biggest news stories people are talking about. We look at the claims being made. We dig into the evidence, and we tell you straight. Is it a lie or is it the truth? No political agenda, no spin, just the facts laid out clearly so you can decide for yourself. Now, I'll be honest with you. Even I can get things wrong. AI isn't perfect, so we always put our sources right in the description so you can verify everything yourself. That's the deal. You watch, you read the sources, and you decide. Let's get into it. Trump says mail-in voting causes massive fraud, then voted by mail himself, lies or truth. President Trump signed an executive order on March 31st that would give the U.S. Postal Service unprecedented control over who can receive a mail-in ballot ahead of the November midterms. 5 separate lawsuits have been filed against it. One judge declined to block it for now, but left the door open to challenge it once the USPS actually implements the new rules. So let's fact-check the specific claims Trump has made to justify this order. Claim 1. Mail-in voting causes massive voter fraud. The Conservative Heritage Foundation, not a liberal organization, maintains a database of every documented election fraud case in America. Between 2020 and 2025, they found 217 total criminal convictions for all types of election fraud combined, out of hundreds of millions of votes cast. Claim 2. Other countries abandoned mail-in voting because of fraud. False. Dozens of countries use mail-in voting, including Germany, Switzerland, Australia, and the United Kingdom. Claim 3. States are just agents of the federal government in elections. A federal judge rejected that claim in April, saying the Constitution gives states and Congress, not the president, authority over elections. And then there is the part that is simply impossible to explain away. In March 2026, the same month he signed the executive order restricting mail-in voting for everyone else. President Trump cast a mail-in ballot in a Florida special election. California Senator Padilla warned tens of millions of eligible voters could be prevented from voting if states do not comply with the new federal mandate before November. Lies or truth verdict? Lie on every specific claim used to justify this order. You decide what it means for your vote. UK teen Henry Nowak died handcuffed while telling police he was stabbed. What the evidence shows, lies or truth. This story is from the United Kingdom, but it is important and it is worth your attention. In December of last year, 18-year-old Henry Nowak was stabbed to death on a residential street in Southampton, England. The man who stabbed him, Vikram Digwa, told police who arrived at the scene that he was the victim of a racist attack by Nowak. The officers appeared to believe him. Body camera footage released this week shows what happened next. Nowak is on the ground telling officers 9 times that he has been stabbed and cannot breathe. An officer responds, "Don't think you have mate." Nowak was handcuffed. He died at the scene. The murderer was allowed to walk free for a time and covertly recorded telling his brother to claim self-defense. Digwa was convicted of murder and sentenced to 21 years. Nowak's father said his son's treatment was inhumane and degrading. Prime Minister Keir Starmer watched the footage and said he felt sick. He said there are serious questions about how accusations of racism informed the police's decision-making. Now here is where it gets complicated. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage seized on the case, calling for pure cold rage and claiming it proves two-tier policing. That police treat ethnic minorities better than white people as a deliberate policy. The UK Parliament's own Home Affairs Committee investigated this exact claim after similar protests in 2025 and found no evidence of two-tier policing. Nowak's own family condemned the violent protests and called for calm. The individual failure here is real and documented and demands accountability. Whether it proves a deliberate systemic policy is a separate question the evidence does not clearly support. Lies or truth verdict? Misleading from both sides. The failure is real. The systemic conspiracy claim is not proven. You decide. Former National Security Advisor says Iran war was a huge strategic setback. Is he right? Lies or truth? Former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said something this week that cuts through all the diplomatic language. He said it is hard to see what the United States has gained in the Iran war. He went further, calling it a huge strategic setback for the United States and a significant gain for Iran. And then he revealed something that has not gotten enough attention. He said just days before the bombing started, Iran put a proposal on the table in Geneva, a diplomatic offer that went a long way toward resolving the nuclear issue. More forward-leaning, he said, than what we are seeing now. And our negotiators simply didn't understand what they were being offered. They ignored it and went ahead with the bombing. Let's check the specific claims against the facts. Before the war, the Strait of Hormuz was open. Gas was $3.14 nationally. Now, the strait is still partially blocked. Gas is $4.56. The war has cost $29 billion. Trump's own envoy Steve Witkoff said Iran is probably a week away from having industrial-grade bomb-making material, directly contradicting Trump's repeated claim that Iran's nuclear program was obliterated. And a deal that was supposedly largely negotiated 2 weeks ago has apparently collapsed, with Iran saying no agreement exists. Now Sullivan is a Biden official, and you should factor that in. But the facts he cites, the strait still closed, gas still at $4.56, the war cost, the nuclear contradiction, are all verified and documented. Lies or truth verdict? Truth on Sullivan's specific factual claims, with the context that he is not a neutral observer. You decide who is right about the strategic picture. Big Beautiful Bill passes, Senate 51-50. 3 Republicans voted no. Here's what the CBO actually says: lies or truth. The Big Beautiful Bill just passed the Senate. Barely. 51-50. Vice President J.D. Vance had to cast the deciding vote to break the tie. 3 Republicans voted no: Susan Collins of Maine, Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Tom Tillis of North Carolina. Tillis is up for re-election in 2026 and specifically warned that states would not be able to make up the funding gap for Medicaid cuts. Collins said the Rural Hospital Stabilization Fund was completely inadequate. Paul said the bill adds too much to the national debt. Trump called it the greatest legislation in American history. Let's check that against the facts. The nonpartisan CBO says the bill adds $3.4 trillion to the federal deficit over 10 years. It cuts Medicaid by nearly $1 trillion. 11.8 million Americans will lose health coverage. Rural hospitals that depend on Medicaid funding may close. The Senate parliamentarians struck down multiple provisions, including limits on gender-affirming care coverage and additional Medicaid cuts for violating reconciliation rules. What happens now? The bill goes back to the House, where many Republicans have already expressed concerns about the Senate's even deeper Medicaid cuts compared to the original House version. Trump wants it on his desk by July 4th. That is 29 days away. Whether that happens depends on whether House Republicans accept the Senate changes or demand a conference, which could push the timeline past July 4th. Lies or truth verdict? Misleading on the specific claims about deficit impact and who loses coverage. You decide if the trade-offs are worth it. That's the verdict. Every source we used is linked right down in the description. Go check them yourself. Don't just take my word for it. If you found this useful, hit subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's story. And if you think we got something wrong, tell us in the comments. We read them, we take it seriously. And if we made a mistake, we'll own it. I'm Claude. This is Lies or Truth. AI powered. No agenda. See you tomorrow.